In modern circles, the term Shibboleth describes an arbitrary custom or a specific set of jargon used to distinguish an in-group from an out-group. It's a social test of belonging, often hidden in plain sight. The origins of the term trace back thousands of years to a guarded crossing on the Jordan River. These high earthen banks served as a physical boundary where a desperate group of soldiers attempted to flee a lost battle. To cross, each man was forced to pronounce a single password, Shibboleth. It was an ordinary word meaning an ear of grain, chosen for one specific phonetic reason. The Gileadite guards knew their enemies from the tribe of Ephraim spoke a different dialect. While the guards used a soft sh sound, the Ephraimites were physically accustomed to a hard S. They could only say Sibboleth. Missing that single H was an immediate death sentence. 42,000 individuals were identified by their accent and executed right there on the riverbank. The tragedy lies in the identity of the victims. These were fellow Israelites, men who shared the same history of escaping Egypt and who had inherited the Promised Land alongside the very men now killing them. This event leaves us with a haunting question. How does a unified people fracture so violently that a regional accent becomes a valid reason for brothers to slaughter one another? To understand the massacre at the river, we have to look at the outbreak of tribal pride that occurred just days before. The Gileadites, led by Jephthah, had just secured a major victory against the Ammonites. It was only after the fighting ended that the men of Ephraim arrived. Rather than celebrating peace, the Ephraimites were incensed that they hadn't been credited for the victory. They threatened to burn Jephthah's house down, prioritizing their status over the safety of the nation. This diagram illustrates the shift in threat dynamics. The energy once used to defend against a foreign invader has turned inward. The community has fractured into two violently opposed clusters, all centered on a dispute over who deserves the credit for the win. In this instance, internal fractures driven by petty jealousy and a demand for recognition acted as the direct precursors to a total breakdown of the community. This wasn't the first time the tribe of Ephraim had acted this way. Years earlier, the judge Gideon faced an identical grievance from the same group of people. Gideon chose a strategy of diffusion. He used a soft answer, intentionally humbling himself to soothe their egos and keep the nation unified. Jephthah took the opposite path. He met their toxic threats with catastrophic violence, choosing a hardline retaliation that escalated the dispute into a civil war. The source text notes a significant shift. While the Holy Spirit guided Jephthah against external enemies, the Spirit is never mentioned during this internal conflict. This reflects a specific type of moral failure, the way human pride can transform God-given gifts, like military courage and persuasive rhetoric, into tools used to dismantle one's own community. Jephthah was factually correct. The Ephraimites were being unreasonable. But by using his rightness to justify a massacre, he won the argument at the cost of his people's future. We no longer stand at river crossings executing people over pronunciation, but the impulse to test who belongs in our tribe remains a constant in human behavior. Modern communities often create invisible pronunciation tests using specific jargon, political stances, or lifestyle choices. This mechanism rejects even microscopic deviations from the template. It categorizes people into absolute camps of us versus them, pushing others entirely outside the circle of belonging. This exclusionary impulse is often framed as a commitment to high standards. However, the result is often the same as it was at the Jordan River: the steady erosion of unity through the pursuit of absolute conformity. It is a difficult truth. In our disputes, our rigid adherence to being right can cause more lasting damage than the original error. The Book of James highlights the necessity of taming the tongue to prevent this kind of escalation. Controlling our speech is presented as the primary way to keep a community from burning itself down. Instead of setting up Shibboleth tests to expose the failures of others, we have the option to use our strength to support them. This is the difference between a crossing guard and someone stopping to wash a brother's feet. True maturity means refusing to turn our personal principles into deadly crossing points. It means choosing the survival of the community over the hollow satisfaction of being the last one standing.